What's up, everybody? This is Fred Richani of TSC News. I have right here on the line a very special guest. He is the Hall of Famer, Dan the Beast Severn, UFC Hall of Famer, two-time NWA World Champion, the only Triple Crown champion in UFC history. And speaking of Hall of Fames, he just inducted his good buddy Don Frye into the UFC Hall of Fame during UFC 200 weekend, and he's got a brand new book out by the name of The Realest Guy in the Room, and he's here to talk about it and much, much more. Mr. Severn, how are you tonight?
Well, I tell you what, that was quite the dramatic interest there, Fred. I love it.
Hey, I do what I can. It's not every day we have Hall of Fame caliber guests on TSC News. You're one of our most favorite guests. We've been going back since, I think, 2009 or 2010. You probably don't remember this. You're actually one of the first people I ever interviewed for TSC News back when we were the Sports Courier. So we do appreciate the time, Dan.
Wow, I didn't know. I'm actually glad you kind of put that. I appreciate that. No, it's like I said, I stay busy. I like what I do. I've lived probably out of a planner a bit since my junior year in high school, primarily for my summer months because I was doing a lot of traveling for wrestling and that. But still, to this day, I live out of an old-fashioned planner, just with writing in my dates and upcoming events, and I love it. I think I can hang in there for maybe another decade doing the crazy stuff that I continue to do.
Absolutely, and I've been seeing lately you've been doing a lot more pro wrestling than you've been doing. You were still fighting well after your UFC days, doing your thing. You did some wrestling for a while, and then kind of took a break. I saw you doing a lot of appearances here and there, a lot of seminars, a lot of charity work, as you always do. And all of a sudden, I follow, I believe it was AIW, and you're appearing in like some Battle Royal. Then you're booked for another show. What made you decide to get back in the squared circle?
I don't know. I think the bookings were always coming in. The problem was that because of the variety of things that I do, and just run down the list real quick, I do amateur wrestling instruction. And I do a lot of, I get asked to go at certain times a year more than other times, like during the Christmas break, so my dad to kind of make up the monotony of a college practice or of a high school practice. A lot of summertime, I get a lot of calls come in to be an instructor for the day or for a couple of days. But, amateur wrestling instruction, folk style, but also amateur wrestling instruction for freestyle and Greco-Roman, which are the two international styles that compete at the, national championship, Olympic Games, World Championships, that kind of stuff. But then I also do have my own flavor of submission grappling, whereas catch is catch can. I do professional wrestling instruction. I do stuff with law enforcement. I do stuff with corrections, air marshals, border patrol, and military, and more recently, working with the largest private security company in the world. So I do a lot of different types of mechanics, type of instruction, and it just, my list, it just never ceases. I love, as I said before, I love the variety of what I do, and each day is just like a new adventure, I guess. I kind of went off point there on the actual question itself. So reel me back in there, Fred.
What made you decide to take some pro wrestling bookings again? Because you kind of were dormant for a while outside of the square circle.
Okay, I guess my point of saying all that was that all of these other groups book things a lot further out. Working with military, working with law enforcement, they're booking me a year in advance. Usually by the time the professional wrestler promoter is contacting me, they're contacting me within that 4 to 6 week range out. I'm booked. And that's really what the problem has been. I think more recently I've told it to several different promoters, and they've been booking me a lot further. For example, I've got bookings into February right now for professional wrestling that I would have never had before this far out. It's just, don't ask me what it is about that industry, but typically 4 to 6 weeks out, that's when they're calling on you.
Very cool, very cool.
Because I do work for myself, I always like to know that I have income coming in.
And I'm looking right here, some details on your book that I received via this press release. Haven't had a chance to read it yet, but I'm certainly picking it up. The Realest Guy in the Room. How appropriate for a man who was most likely the toughest guy in the room whenever you were in a professional wrestling locker room. Why was this the right time to put out a book?
I have been working. I've been working on a book. I'll say for probably close to 20 years or more that I've been writing stuff. The problem is I have too much content, and realistically, in the last say 3 or so years, I kept thinking, I better stop procrastinating and start to move forward on this project, or it will never happen. And the gentleman Ian Douglas, who basically helped collaboration and helped organize. Even he's actually the person who came up with the title, the Realest Guy in the room. I shipped him off like half a dozen different titles I thought would be kind of appropriate. But as he's conducted, interview type format, I would simply just say that we could go into talk about this or talk about that. Then he'd go into like an interview type of format. He's like the way that I kept coming back was such direct, blunt, and to the point answers. He goes, that is so refreshing that someone is really this blunt and this honest about industries like professional wrestling, about the mixed martial arts world, or even the no-holds-barred world. What I do in my amateur wrestling, you talk about even aspects of raising a family, and by all means, what a lot of people today would construe as being politically incorrect. But Fred, I'm okay in my little world of being the way I am. Anymore, the world is kind of gone to hell in a handbasket. And I look at it that I run a training facility. Give you a perfect example. I run a training facility. And when I first opened it up, I was like, Mikasa, Sukasa, treat it like it was your own home. I've been to some of their homes. No. This is an extension of my home. Stupidity is running rampant. I no longer believe in democracy. This is my country, and I am the dictator of it. The doors that allow you to come in and to train also allow you to leave. And I actually have been pretty bold with some of the parents that had come in to where it's like, well, they're Mr. and Mrs. Smith. You have one of 3 choices here right now. You can drop off and pick up. You can take advantage of this golden hour that I have your child in here taking this class and go and work out for yourself. Or your third option is take your child and you may leave. Because I don't need their monthly dues that bad that I'm going to compromise my rules, my standards. For example, with my one youth kids class, it's called Youth MMA, but it doesn't stand for mixed martial arts. It stands for modern martial arts. Realistically, what is it? It's a glorified physical education class. I could do whatever I want in it. It's heavily gymnastic-based, but all kinds of balloon drills, hand-eye coordination, gross motor skills, hula hooping, fun stuff. And I don't just simply just bark orders. I actually do it with them. When they're doing gymnastics, and I'm saying doing 4 rows, tuck into this, backward rolls, cartwheels, yours truly can still pull off cartwheels and 4 rolls and backward rolls. I've had so many times, I've had parents say, take this the right way there, Mr. Severn, but you kind of look like a trained gorilla, the way that you can roll this way, roll that way. And like, how do you do that? I'm thinking, well, all I know is I want to continue to do it for as many years to come. Because as the old cliche goes there, Fred, none of us getting out of the game of life alive. I just want to stay in the game as long as possible, and I want to have quality of life as I do it.
Now, Dan, you mentioned being politically incorrect, and you did hold nothing back when I received this statement from you a couple months ago. You were supposed to fight Ken Shamrock on a show called You Are Fighting. For those who aren't familiar with this, it was a one-off internet pay-per-view that featured Roy Jones fighting a fan, Kurt Angle versus Rey Mysterio, Chael Sonnen and Michael Bisping in a grappling match, and yourself and Ken Shamrock. And then somehow, I guess something happened with Ken. he pulled out. I heard that you were supposed to fight Tank Abbott, but he failed a physical, and you were not happy about this. Can you describe that wild weekend of yours?
Well, unhappy is probably an understatement. And because he peeped, he opened his mouth, and garbage fell out, I felt it was my position, like training an animal, to grab him by the scruff of his neck and to rub his face into the garbage that just spewed out of his mouth. I put him right on the spot. The guy bails out 9 days before we're supposed to have our match. This match, that again, I'm going to try to give you some information that you may not know about. Our original date for this match was February 21st, not the March 20th date that it actually took place. February 21st, I'll say that I was contacted back in November 2015 by the UR Network. And they said that we heard that you might come back out of retirement for one of these guys. And I said, yeah, I did say exactly that. They said, well, we've got Ken Shamrock. Are you interested? I go, do go on. And so basically, they told me the whole premise of what was the show, kind of a very unique show. And I mean, I busted my hump for this company because all I cared about was I wanted this match to happen. I don't care if you want to put Roy Jones out there in a boxing match. I don't care about the Kurt Angle professional match. I don't care the Bisbane submission grappling match. All I care about is I get Ken Shamrock back in the ring one last time. It's marketable, but it will never live up to the hype. We split matches, but at the same token, Ken Shamrock never deserved to be in a super bout in the first place. The man has tested dirty on a couple occasions for steroids, and even this last time, now he tested positive for steroids, but also with opiates on top of that. I don't even know if he's still under suspension or how long his suspension will last because it being his second offense with additional days thrown onto it. But to get back to the actual story, he's supposed to do the match. He signs a letter of intent. He takes X amount of dollars as a deposit of good faith for a show that's supposed to take place February 21st. He starts making some different tweets that he's got a big announcement coming up. I'm thinking, well, he's going to probably be announcing his and my match. No, he announces he's doing a match with Royce Gracie on February 19th. So I'm thinking, Friday, February 19th, he's going to do a match with Royce, and then he's going to fight me on the 21st. Tough dude. And so I bring it to the attention to the company. I go, you may want to contact Ken to find out, why this announcement is coming, why he's taking another match. But normally in a contracted situation, you are not to take any other match minimum of 30 days. Usually it's more like 60 or 90 days before something as big as this was supposed to be. So basically they contact Ken, the company did, and Ken says, no problem, just move your show back by 1 week. I think pretty ballsy to say move it back by 1 week. He'll fight Royce Gracie 1 weekend and then he'll fight me the following. Does Dan Severn have a problem with that? Then the company calls me back. They tell me exactly what it says. I go, does Dan Severn have a problem with this? I don't have a problem with it whatsoever. I go, but you guys, that you are network, you might have a problem with this. If Ken gets any kind of a little boo-boo in his match, minimum of a 30-day suspension. Bare bones minimum. I wouldn't move it back by 1 week. I'd move it back by 1 month at least. And lo and behold, his match takes place, and the ruling comes down that TKO and Ken is hurt also in the process. So all I know is 9 days out, he bails. then there was, then now the CR network, they're searching for a new opponent. I go, oh, you mean you're going to go get a whole place for me? I go, no. I said, no. I said, you guys contacted me back in February. I said I was only going to come out for one of 3 people. Unless you could produce one of those 3, I'm not interested. And so basically, they finally come up with Tank Abbott, and it was kind of a freak show event that was being put on in the first place. I go, well, Tank Abbott fits the role of a freak show. Why not? I go, but when's the last time he's had a match? Will he pass a physical? I go, just because of my age alone, I actually had to stand before 8 athletic commissioners, and I was being cross-examined to make sure that this wasn't some crisis of, I need the money, whatever have you. So, I had to do a few more medical tests on top of that because most states don't want you when you're past 38 years of age. And here I am, 57 years of age.
You've done quite well. How's your body holding up?
Sound as a pound.
Do you have any secret sauce? Do you have a fountain of youth? Any tips that you could give any of us?
I always tell people that one of my homes is out in Fountain Hills, Arizona. Maybe it is a fountain of youth. Who knows?
Yeah. I'll definitely.
Every time I'm with Bosch Rutan, he keeps wondering. He goes, dude. He goes, who? Why aren't you Asian? I go, because I don't want to.
It's the mustache.
Well, must be.
Man, and then speaking of a guy with an epic mustache, you inducted Don Frye into the UFC Hall of Fame. A guy who actually I interviewed early in my career as well. You and Don Frye were actually probably, I think, 2 of the first MMA fighters we ever interviewed for this website. Both were great in your own ways. And what's funny is I found out through interviewing you guys that you guys were good friends and very tight and everything, and came up together. And it's kind of interesting because you're kind of more, I don't want to say level-headed than Don, but you're kind of like the yin to his yang. What was it?
Let's say I'm older, more mature. Don was I was coaching at Arizona State, and he was one of my athletes. And he actually lived with one of my younger brothers. So I knew Don on a much more personal basis at a much earlier time. So a lot of times when I'd be visiting my younger brothers, if I'd be visiting Don as well. And then, after graduation, I did see Don for a little bit, and then, and lo and behold, he comes back in as I'm doing my thing in the Ultimate Fighting Championships and with all the other promotions around the country and around the world. He basically seeks me out, and he says, "Can I help him get into this industry?" And I knew Don was already. He was a hard-nosed, boneheaded competitor. He just would not be denied. And I thought Don would do well in this kind of stuff. And so basically, I always tell people that the only credit I will take is I helped the man get his foot in the door, but he's the one who kicked it open.
And now he joins you in the UFC Hall of Fame. What was that like to induct him there in UFC 200?
Well, I tell you, I can look at it as a home week, like a reunion there. Even the fact that I seen Mark Coleman out there, again from that wrestling type of background, it's interesting to see how time had changed and how people have kind of mellowed with it as well. And it was, for me to be standing up there and just to be able to get that done, I can think of no greater moment for me to just be able to say, just to welcome the newest member of the class of 2016 UFC Hall of Fame, Don the Predator Frye. That was probably the greatest sensation for me to do that and see you come on out there. He had a big old, of course, he had that big old mustache smile on his face, with a cowboy hat, all in tow. It made me feel good. I was proud.
As you should be. And for you, one of the pioneers of mixed martial arts, to see where the sport has come to, UFC 200 was a huge event. 24 hours later, we hear about the UFC being sold for $4 billion. Dan, when you were becoming the first and only UFC Triple Crown champion in history, did you think that 20 years from now, 21 years from now, whenever it was, that we would see the UFC as big as it is today, and perhaps bigger in a few years?
I know that, well, when I first saw it, I knew the attraction to it all. I mean, just the sheer act of violence alone, how people are drawn to violence. I mean, football is very popular because you've got huge men punishing, knocking each other down. Boxing, people like to watch. So, I mean, to me, it's like, when this cage fighting, no holds barred product first hit. First off, when I watched the very first time I saw it, I'm like, wow, you can actually do this type of competition here in the United States. It kind of blew my mind because a buddy of mine had copied an old VHS tape with the first two UFC shows on it. And so basically, as an experiment, I'd have a couple of different buddies that would stop by that had to just drop something off to me. But I would pop the tape in real quick, and before you know it, they're always supposed to stop by for just a couple of minutes. An hour and a half later, they're on the edge of the couch, screaming, yelling, contorting their body because they're actually fighting the match with the people that are on the screen fighting the match. And here I am watching my buddies more than I'm actually watching what's happening on the screen. They're thinking, wow, look at this magnetism this product has here right now. So I knew if the product could survive, there was something there, yes. And there is there growth still for this? Of course there is. Until you could see some type of a WrestleMania / Super Bowl on an annual basis, that's when the sport will have truly arrived. That's when you have the champions of the UFC versus the champions of World Series of Fighting versus the champions of King of the Caves versus the champions of Bellator versus, that's when the sport will truly have arrived. Biggest thing is, can we get some of the egos that some of the ownerships have out of the way first?
With your age now, you're 57, correct?
58.
Oh, 58. Wow. You certainly don't look 58, but obviously I'm sure you know that.
Fred, it's not the real color of my hair. I'm just glad I still have hair to color. I could be a blonde or redhead or whatever else, but I don't think the people are ready for a blonde, mustached beast.
Yeah, we can make that maybe like a match stipulation or something. But you're pretty damn healthy for your age, man, and you look great. But I'm sure you know when it comes to real fighting, mixed martial arts, the doors closing. The window of opportunity is closing with athletic commissions and all that. So are you
exactly right? Just when the hoops I had to jump through this last time. There's going to be very, very few states that will allow this.
So are you kind of desperate right now, or are you kind of chomping at the bit and hoping that maybe, just maybe, Ken or Hoist or somebody else from your era will step up for one last fight?
Well, again, I only want one of two people, or both people, only because they're flapping their yap. So to me, it's like, put up or shut up. If you're going to talk the talk, walk the walk. Don't sit there and start throwing out things. I retired. I did retire with a clause. I said that if one of these three, but Mark Coleman's on that list anymore because he's had a couple artificial hip replacements. He's had some health issues, so he's off. But Ken and Hoist, because they did do this Bellator match. Why don't I get to play? Why doesn't Scott Coker bring me in on this deal? I tried to get a hold of Scott. Why didn't he bring me in to take on the winner or the loser? Hell, I might even be so kind as I might do a Kmart Blue Light special and give a 2-for-1 special.
Well, can I make a suggestion? I don't know if this can happen. I don't know if you could pull some strings and hit up your connections here. But
you're talking to a person that doesn't pull strings, that doesn't pull connections. That's why I'm talking to you on something that has media here, so that I'm hoping that maybe some other people who know how to pull some strings, who have those connections. I mean, I've spoken to some of the most primary type of people, and yet it seems like it has fallen upon deaf ears.
Well, you know what? How about this? Let me not make a suggestion to you then. Let's make a suggestion to maybe some wrestling promoters. You see, if you have to go through all these hoops for MMA, maybe you want to settle things in the wrestling ring. How about Dan the Beast Severn and Don the Predator Frye against Ken Shamrock and Hoist Gracie? I'd like to see that at the Tokyo Dome. Maybe New Japan Pro Wrestling.
Well, I would do it, but I kind of doubt it. Those two.
Any chance of you and Don in a tag team?
Well, would I do something like that? Of course, we'd be Team Mustache. Come on now. It'd be a hit, especially in Japan.
I mean, Don was pretty over there too at one point. You had success in Japan as well. I mean, it'd be kind of cool to see. At least the team of the Beast and the Predator.
I think that it has nostalgic value. I think it would go over well. Don with his stars and stripes trunks and stuff like that. Sure, it would go over great.
Hey, you make it even better. Maybe put Yoshihiro Takayama on the other side.
Yeah, I don't know if that match will ever be reviewed ever again. That was a pretty incredible match.
Yeah,
between Don Frye, Takayama.
That took some years off their life. That's for sure. I mean, that was.
Oh
crazy.
yeah, they both paid a price. They both paid an ultimate price in that one.
Well, Dan, I know you got a lot going on, and before we started chatting here on the air, you were just finishing up a training session as the true beast you are. Before we let you go, can you let us know where we can get your book, The Realest Guy in the Room, and where we can find you next?
Well, I'll tell you what, just if you go to my website at dansevern.com, it has all my social medias there. It's all that blasted on the Facebook, but you think I'd be able to tell you actually how to get from Facebook? No. I just say to always tell people, I'm not exactly the sharpest guy when it comes to a lot of the social media type stuff, but go to my website at dansevern.com, and you'll see all the stuff that's there. Ebook-wise, it came out ebook first, I think, right around that July 4th type of time period, and within probably 4 or 5 days, it moved right to the number one bestseller on Amazon.com. Me personally, I still have not even received the physical book here yet. I think it's supposed to be coming in sometime towards the end of this week. And realistically, this is probably the first week of doing any real promotionary type of work onto it. So must have something good in it that many people have already picked up and started reading about it. But then, as I said before there, Fred, I'm a rather blunt and to the point type of person. Not quite as blunt as Don. I probably look politically correct compared to Don, though.
Well, knowing you, I'm sure it'll be a great read. It'll be candid, and if you're somebody that like me, that's a huge pro wrestling and MMA fan, I'm sure it's gonna have a lot of cool, juicy information, and I'm sure too some history, because you were part of history. Like I said, Triple Crown champion, 2-time NWA champion. I mean, you were there when this thing was growing and just starting, my friend. I mean, it's a unique story.
I hate to say this because I'm so bold and arrogant, but that's obviously I am. I am walking history. Fred, let's look at a timeline alone. I started my amateur wrestling career in 1969. By 1971, I was teaching amateur wrestling. By 1972, I won my very first national title. By 1976, I'm the number one recruit in the United States at my weight class. Let's just jump. Okay, that's by 1976. Let's just jump 2 decades later. By 1996, I'm the number one cage fighter in the world. Let's just jump ahead of another quick decade. Okay, let's go into 2 decades. 2016, I come out of retirement to do one more match. I've already gone over 4 decades already. I legitimately have over 100 state, national, and or international titles and or records. There's not another human being that's close to what I've done, and I'm still alive. And I'm not done yet.
If that's not
I'm lifetime chemical free. Out of the first 3 guys inducted into the UFC Hall of Fame, only one of us has never tested positive. You want to go out on a limb there, Fred, and guess which one that was?
A mustachioed friend.
Again, I'm rubbing reality in some people's face. You may or may not like the book because I'm keeping it real. A lot of people want to keep it real. I don't think they're ready for real. I would love one more match with those two guys. Only those two guys. I have no other axe to grind with anyone else. I wouldn't even have an axe to grind with them. But if you want to open their mouth, put up or shut up.
Man, Dan, if that wasn't the best sales pitch I've ever heard for an autobiography, I don't know what is.
Well, it's not. I mean, Fred, I've been competing over 40-some years. But if you look, okay, just talk about the MMA portion alone. See, if you looked at me, you'll see that. Why aren't my ears all cauliflowered up? Why isn't my nose broken, twisted around? Why aren't I have the summer teeth type of look to you right now? Because I didn't get hit, or I minimized the number. I can speak in a full sentence here to you. There's a number of people, my contemporaries, that are nowhere near my age, that you would not be able to have the same type of conversation to. Here, okay, you like my pitch on that one. Here's the other pitch. There's only 4 people in the world that have over 100 cage fights. I'm one of the 4. There's only 3 in the world that have over 100 victories. I'm one of the 3. Now, the ironic part is I faced the other 3. I defeated the other 3. And the closest one to my age is 15 years my junior. Once again, puts me in a category all by myself. I was WWF's oldest rookie ever at 48 years of age. Vince was shocked when I'm in the office there talking with him and Jim Ross. And then there's a conversation. He looks at me kind of surprised, like, well, how old are you? And then I tell him, and he looks over at Jim Ross and goes, well, who's the oldest rookie we've ever had? And then Jim Ross points right back at me and goes, Dan is. But I don't look my age, nor do I act my age. I don't know if that's a good thing or not.
Man, what a career, Dan. What a career. Well, we really do appreciate the time. For more information, you can follow Dan Severn online. You get the realest guy in the room, the life and times of Dan Severn.